So, hey folks, thank you for tuning in. And I'm really glad that I'm born in this era where DevOps is ruling the world. So, this is where we are introducing to you to the DevOps world. And over a course of time, I feel that there are a lot of people who are coming in, a lot of experts who in this field who are just coming here, coming on this platform, talking about their experience as well as they just teaching you all. And also thank UPS Dehradun for tuning in. And it's an honor to be sharing my experience in the world of DevOps. And thank you so much for being part of this. So let's hop into the introduction and let's say what is it all about when we talk to the world of DevOps. So a disclaimer, DevOps is not just tools, not just a firm or a company which is ruling it, it's beyond it. And over a course of time, I realized one thing that, hey, DevOps is a culture. It's not about organization anymore. Like, if you have an record-breaking or a groundbreaking DevOps culture, then I'm a fan of you. So this is what DevOps is all about. So to me, it's not just Confluence, the Jira ticket, or anything. It's all about like I'm coming from an environment where there is no Jira tickets at all. So it's an ML. So we don't generally go out there and it's not just an culture which we talk about. It's also about like how can we fit in the entire agility model that we are just building in. Yeah, it's a methodology, by the way. And over a course of time, this evolved from Toyota production system, and now it's defining the SDLC today. So it's software development lifecycle. How do you develop a software? How fast can you deliver the features, and how fast can that have an uptime, which is like 99.99% accuracy? And there are some concepts which are advanced concepts such as rollback mechanism, and there are agile testing, there are scrum masters who come in, program managers, there are a lot of people who open. So basically it defined what an SDLC is today. It also defined agility as well as an accessibility. Why I'm talking about agility, it's because how fast can you deliver the product to the market? How fast can you say this feature can be done, and how fast can you make it more secure, reliable, sustainable? It's all agility. Accessibility is all about that. It's a world which is very complex. Like somebody says this way, that way is the best possible route that you can just get in. But to me, I felt that after we just thinking in the form of an DevOps as in the organization culture, it's a new form factor that we are talking today. And over a course of time, I just realized one thing that I think this is the best way to do it. Like DevOps is the best way to do it. And just a solution to the unanswered problem statements. Like there can be n number of it. How can we enter this market with this amount of products in mind, this amount of idea? So it's all about that ideation and that execution model that we are talking. So DevOps starts with the people, process, and tools. Of course, you can exclude tools. It's all about the people and the process. Like a simple bash script can do that. Like you can really try automating it, but today there is a lot of tools, so we make sure that we just have the tools and we start working. So there's no beginning and there is still no end to the path of the transition in the DevOps culture. I always talk like where can we fit inside with respect to an IT transformation. I do a lot of podcasts. Like you can just go to YouTube and wait, it's my name, which was Narayan. So you guys can just go there and check out. I do a DevOps chat series as well. So this is the podcast which covers everything about it. I do DevOps chat series as well, where I call different professionals from different companies. Recently we had Itel, Naveen Verma sir from the Dev India. So amazing professional. Just hang out with them on the LinkedIn or a Twitter or any place. You'll understand what is it all about. Like such an amazing person. I think Sandeep Bhai is always there with us. He's also from the Dev, and I think Tarun Marwa sir is also twice on the show. Yes, he's twice on the show. And he has given an amazing set of insights. So it's always that infinite loop. Like, how can you stop the transition? How can you begin the transition? Where to understand what is the transition that is going on in a culture? Like I do talk with a lot of people. Like I do talk with people who are working in the technology. I do talk with people who are working in operations for a while. I understand one thing, that there's always that infinite loop, and one team doesn't know what is happening with the other. So scrum masters taking in 20, 30 people inside a team, that's not a big deal. But like being an engineering manager or a program manager or a product manager, analyzing what is in the loop of the development, that's what it's all about. So we'll go a little technical, we'll just understand it, what it is all about. So to be very frank, study hard. You have to study hard. And it's not the agility in which you're studying. It's not like, okay, I'm just studying. It's also about being frank and also being truthful to your efforts. You can't fake it and make it, because DevOps has seen hundreds of transitions with the professionals who are coming in this world. And over a course of time, there's always a need for us to understand where does this entire culture fits inside the entire portfolio. Like I just want to ask you guys one question. Like, how many of you want to join developer proclivity, like .NET developers, React developers, Angular developers, or else any sort? I know that there is a lag of 10 seconds. Basically, it's a tool of cloud computing. DevOps need not have to be a tool for cloud computing. It can be and culture which defines the way you're operating. Like I can say, a company like JP Morgan, HSBC has already embraced the way in which serverless is happening. So you can't rely on the fact that it's just a tool for a cloud. It's basically the DevOps culture. Like I can say you an example of Toyota production system. I think I can say you Toyota production system. NPTEL course is there, so you guys can go and check it out. So this entire playlist talks about that. So it's not tech, but it still does all the management. Like I'll give you examples in the future. Don't worry about that. So anybody who wants to join the developer proclivity or the operations proclivity, that's fine. You can just answer that. Some might be students here. It need not have to hinder you. So let me just show you a report. It's called as a state of software supply chain report. I know probably this is the first time that you're hearing about it, but hats off to the Sonatype software, which is amazing. So if your company is fiddling around with what can we do with SaaS, DaaS, IaaS, I think Sonar Cloud, Sonatype, Snike, amazing companies are there for the DevSecOps today. You can reach out to them. But they give an amazing reports, which is record breaking to me. So these are all the statistics which I'm talking about. So open source supply chain is accelerating. So 6 million of the new versions are introduced in the past year. That means versions of the softwares, and 37 million OSS component versions now available. And I'm talking in terms of an open source world. We are just doing a session on Docker security. I think I have not done the slides for that. Like I have an idea for having all these statistics there. So you can think about like how's the agility of the software today. Software is like moving so fast, and it's all about that revenue. It's all about the productivity that we are taking in. Like the attacks which are happening, so increases by 650%. That means, whoa, that's a hell lot of statistics which comes up. So if you think of all these criteria that you can do, it's a slide on its own. It's a topic on its own. The Sonatype reports has been studied in Harvard, MIT. They take reference of all these kinds of reports every single day. So common vulnerability security score, everything is here. So it's an end-to-end analysis that is done throughout an year on what basis was that entire infrastructure. I think this get released in the month of July. I think state of the DevOps report also in terms of July itself. Like, let's see whether the dates are available here. So no. So don't worry about that. You need not have to think like very complex things, but you can really understand like, hey, this is what my entire company requires and what should I learn from it. So if you just start reading this report, you will understand like, hey, this is what I think. There is always an emphasis on SSF. Okay, that's fine. That's beyond the reach of this entire panel of discussion that we are doing. But I think Yes, this is the one. So under the imperfect upgrade choices, like how are we just going to write the software in an agile fashion, and how are these versions and the version control affecting us, and what is that rollback mechanism, and what's the cost of it, and how much of a contribution needs to happen, and everything. So this is what it is. So state of the DevOps report is always written under with lot of other companies in mind as well. So PagerDuty is one of the best ones that you really want to think. Damon Edward, amazing chief product officer. Deloitte is an amazing institution for DevOps. I think they have all the clouds, so don't worry. Armory is also good. Sysdig is DevSecOps. God. So Google now has the institution called as Dora. They bought it purposefully because they wanted to pioneer the way in the DevOps world. So here they are with the DevOps culture. And I feel that, there's always a need for us to understand all the different matrices which are coming. So continuous, we say, right? We have to be continuous integration, deployment, and the things like that. Here we are talking about it. So it has statistics from all years, and all the years we are just considering, okay, what can we really contribute? So here it is. So all the statistics. So don't worry about that. So be truthful at the end of the day. So DevOps is a reason to accelerate the workloads. All the things that I talked here, the main and the prime concern for your company is like, how can we securitize the workflow? How can we manage everything that is coming up and piles and piles of workloads? So customer is the king. So we'll just go on with the description of it and what is it all about. I think this is cute lion, by the way. So earlier, if you ask any of the folks who are in the dev proclivity for a very long time, they had something called as a waterfall model. And this is your waterfall model that I'm talking here. So it's all that analysis. They just go to the customer, they get the requirements, and they just come back. And there is a requirement specification that is done by program managers, product managers, technical architects, solutions architect, engineering managers. I think there are other people like IM folks who really rule that market. They do that. If you are PGDM or MBA in sales, sorry for that. You have a tough time. If you are in operations, yes, you will be a part of all these. So at the end of the day, there is a requirement specification. Then you start designing an entire architecture. By that time, customer might have had an other issue to come up with, like, hey, we found through a market research we need to do something else, and this is where the design is not working. So you were not able to do that, so you were supposed to push that design and the ideation and the brainstorming to the developer team, and the testing used to happen. And always this path used to always be a repetitive one. It was never like, okay, let's just go back to the testing team, or else let's just go back to the design thing and just start working towards it. It's never like that. It's all that. So let's just come to what earlier folks was, their ultimate goal was to reach there. That's it. So they had that ultimate goal and they just wanted to do that. So this is where this model came into the picture, and nothing worked out there. So this is what I'm talking about. So a customer is always there. He's ready to use your software, reliable sources, security, development, and the need from your side is always he asks for. So he is always like, okay, where can I fit in my entire idea into your entire skill set? Like, you have a set of skill set, you have a set of subscription that you have. I'll pay for it, by the way, don't worry about that. But like, how can I really work towards it? So it's an agnostic solution that they look for. Like, what if Microsoft is not giving such kind of a service tomorrow? How can I be cloud agnostic? Like, how, if I want to move for AWS, how can I move that? So it's all that software and the API jugaad that we wanted to do. And over a course of time, this is what we realized. And I need a requirement analysis done. I need a product that makes my institution stand out in the crowd. I need a full support end to end. And there's a customer support. At the end of the day, your customers say, when can you deliver me the software and the product? That's the question. They don't have anything in their mind. That's the question that they want to ask. And the next conversation is with all your product manager, product owners, program managers, architects, and so on. Everybody brainstorms with the customer and they have that interaction. And it's a never ending conversation, by the way. And they now go back to the developers and they say, this is the strategy, this is how we strategize, and this is how we strategize, and so on. So we just want to just move ahead with all the things that we are good at. So what can you bring me as a developer? And they do their research. So based on the requirement, they do the research, they get the team of developers and they start building. So technically recruiting is also an operations thing, and basically everything is complex. If you don't understand one thing, you're blown away. So this is how in the real world that interaction happens. That's what a developer is. This is what the proclivity of the operations look like. And the proclivity of the operations and the management is something like they don't understand the language of like, hey, how can I do all this? So it's their language. Can't help it. It's their language. So there is no direct connectivity between you and the customer, but there is always that direct connectivity between what does a program manager, architect, and the product owner do for you. And that's what it is. So it's the street slang, if we can say, because all the things that I'm talking here, the Scrum, Agile, DevOps, tickets, backlog features, it's the street slang. Can't help it because that's how you communicate with your program manager, technical architects, and so on. And this is how you come up with. So it's all about like where does the code fit in? Like you might be having tons and tons of skilled developers in Go, Python, Node.js, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, whatnot. So, back then, top to bottom, there used to be people who used to say that, can you write it in Java? But today it's just APIs. You can just turn it into APIs, call it on your program, and you can start working towards it. So you can write a layer of software with Go, package it as an API, package it as a container, run it on some or the other system. So it's always there. So there is always a reason where you can have a front-end component and a back-end component just acting with the respect to the REST APIs and the APIs. It's always there. So this is how your entire code flow and the entire infrastructure looks like. It's like code and the version control. There is still that same old language of Scrum, Agile, DevOps, tickets, backlogs, features. And that code will be reviewed by you, developers, testers, and so on. So there is testing here, deployment team here, there's an automatic unit testing team, and there is unit testing, UAT. There are different environments that we can talk ahead. So there is always a need for you to understand like where can my code fit in. Like the deployment targets can be anything. It can be a web app, it can be an application, it can be any sort of an infrastructure that you're going towards. Like it can be AWS, GCP, Azure, or it's a combination of it. How can you do that? Like it's always that reason. So now there is always that one flow that is always measure and validate, and that also goes through. And that's the matrices that will say, okay, this is the security, this is the CDSs, this is the way in which we are developing. So it just goes through all the team members, all the developers, and it just finally lands up in the customer as well. So basically what you are doing is packaging the code and just flowing it through the unit test, UAT, and everything, all these environment. And at the end of the day, there will always be a discussion between the operations proclivity and the developer proclivity. Like, where can we strategize the cost? Like, should we go more cost and more effective deployments, deliveries, or else should we cut down on some cost and have a trade-off between the delivery and the deployments, security and the deployment, so on. So there is you can't have a trade-off with the security, but there can be conversations that can go like this. So let's strategize for the bugs in the code, because everything that you're using today is open source. And it's just the documentation that's there in your hand and you're just connecting the components. And how can we strategize if there are too many bugs? How can we write our own custom functions, classes, wrappers, whatnot? If you ask something like ML, we still use versions which are like a back, like something like if there is 2.6.0 TensorFlow there, we still might be stuck with 2.4.2, 2.4.0 or anything, because we rely on that software, because we rely on that version which is already there sitting on that entire infrastructure. We can't just move ahead and just update every version, because we are supposed to write papers, by the way. So it's all that. So let's strategize and make our lives easier. That will be the end thing that you will just go through, and you'll be like, okay, let's just strategize to make our lives more easier. So it's always that customers comes with a new requirement every time we have a call with them. So strategize the release and the time for the new deployments. Yes, you need to have a product releases. You need to have n number of functionalities there, and market research is what is good. You went through all the bad and the worst points about the market, and you are like, let's just make the front end look more awesome, and let's just remove this feature and add some more features. Like, we want to give some discount to the people, so let's just build some system which has coupons and things like that. So it's always that. So let's zoom in and basically learn more about it, because that thing, what I've told, is an n number of tools and n number of technologies. So you have all these, you want to just build out like, hey, where can we fit in? What can we do? And this is how the pipeline looks like. And the code fits in here. The code also fits in every single place, but it's like that operations thing which is coming up like, hey, where can we fit in all the things? Like, it's there in the build process, unit test process, deployment process, automatic testing process. Deploy to the production is another issue, because it's like n number of codes and number of version files. Like, let me just say there is a team which is working on 2.4.0, and we see that repository and it gave them an awesome paper, and we want to just take away that code, and we have to start working towards like, hey, how can we start working in bringing an amazing paper using the same old architecture, but that architecture was written in 2.4.2, and we are now working on 2.6.0. So there's a bug at the end of the day. So deploy to the production is something different, which is like n number of code flows, n number of hashes in the GitHub repository. We'll just look at that. We'll just look at that. I would say GitHub is an entire DevOps tool suite. So Microsoft has two DevOps tool suites. So one is Azure DevOps that we'll be doing tomorrow, and today we'll be just going through the different tools and the technology that we want to talk here, because it's introduction to the DevOps world. It's not complete introduction to anything. So meanwhile, you can also understand there is a concept called as networking, because software has defined the way in which we are accessing the network, defining the way in which we are accessing the data center, defining the way in which we are defining all these processes. By the way, it's that very shiny looking glittery Linux command which runs here, bash scripts, so on, but it's automated through some other tools, and that tool is written using a software. So it's always that entire code flow that we are looking forward to. And we have a documentary that we just need to show it to all the things that our customer needs, like, hey, this is what happened. So let me just share you some of the tools and the technologies that we really want to talk towards. So SharePoint in Azure. So this is one of the best tools to work on in terms of documentation. It's like, how can we work towards like, hey, where can we just move towards? And there's also a tool from Confluence, documentation best practices. You can just go to that. They still have that kind of an essence in the market. Like, they still rule the market, even though they are a part of Atlassian company. They still work on different things. There is a need for it. So this is the simple steps that I would say, like, too much of attachments are very bad and things like that. So I told you, right, this is the slang that they work towards. Like, this is what their Scrum is, this is what their Agile is. Let's just go to the Confluence and look what it is. So where are you? Confluence. Confluence. You are here. So that's perfect. I think I've logged in already. Yes, I've already logged in. So I need to go there. And I think I have an n number of profiles which are already built. So that's not a problem. So let's just go there. id.atlassian. I don't want you to be part of it. So let's just go conference. Influence. So wait, I can't buy now. Sorry for that. Whatever I was talking in terms of templates, I can go there. Features, I can go there. I think I'll just go to Jira software. So that's always there. Start. What happened? So let me just go to that entire project. So I already created a project. What you can do is you can just go and create a project. You can have different amount of strategies that can be filled in. So Kanban, Scrum, bug tracking, so on. So this is the software development. So there is a different for service management. This is where your tools like ITIL, Agile frameworks, Safi. Scrum Agile Alliance is one of the companies that I would say Scrum Agile. Oh, sorry. Alliance. It's basically a company which does all these kind of uh, strategies that we really wanted to do. Your Safi certified, PMP certified guys write the exams which are written here. So simple as that. You just go there and you see that, okay, what is a Kanban? So a Kanban board is something which is similar. Kanban board. So recently I did a podcast with Eric Breckner, and he's one of the person who is much more fascinating. So this is how a Kanban board typically looks like, and we'll just go ahead and we'll see how it is all about. So let me just say there's a Scrum that I choose, and I want to use a template, and I say, okay, where can I go and use it? So change template, yes. Use template, yes, I want to use this template. Select team managed products, select team managed products, and you can just go and type your name. VS, perfect. Anything can be changed. So there are other types of templates where else you can just do a test driven development and everything. So you can still go and authenticate with GitHub. So don't worry about that. It's like you have an access to everything. So now how can you just do that? So grant access, yes, granted access. So you can see that, right? I've given access to all of it. So it's just there in front of you, like all the things like Azure pipelines, yes. And to be very frank, I can give you about a case study from this company, which is OAuth. Auth AWS architecture, they do an monthly 1.5 billion transactions. Yes, this is the video. Auth, sorry for that. Auth is always there, but Auth is like that one company which does like 1.5 billion plus logins and verifications, and you have to go and see this entire video. You'll be amazed by the way at which at the scale they are working. At the scale ka matlab, like how can it be accessed by 100 million people at a time, or else 100,000 people at a time. 100 million is too fancy, but like a million, 10 million probably. Hotstar did a record by having 1.2 crore people watching it live on Hotstar app. So this is how they do. They get to know the requirement. They scale accordingly. Even if the hits happen in such a way that it crosses above the limit, they are yet to be working. So they strategize chaos. And how do they do it? It's because of all these kind of authentication, all these kinds of features that they always work towards and things like that. So the project is already created. So what you can do is there is always this to-do list in progress, or else you can name it as test as well. So you can name it as test done, throw it to the review, what time. So a backlog is something like, there was supposed to be a feature which was supposed to be delivered by a developer and he didn't develop it. So this is where you, okay, let's say an epic has to be created, which was didn't prepare for the demo completely, because 1 hour what can I teach you more, right? So you can give it a target, you can see who can view this, create a branch like, hey, get checkout, and you can really push that, and you can say, hey, you have to work in this branch and things like that. So if you want to see what's a backlog, backlog is something like, hey, how can we do that? So starting a sprint is nothing but you are adding a to-do list and saying that, hey boss, you still have to deliver a feature, something as good as this. So if you go here and check out what is happening, and you can see how the Git integration also can be done. So GitHub is already connected, so it goes to that GitHub, and you can see what is the code which is happening, and everything is always there for you. So it's like the to dos. Where are the to dos? And it's always there. And like in progress, how many are there? The done, how many? So today, if you have other set of work, so you'll always be assigned and things like that. So you can do an assignment, you can add a flag saying that, hey, this has been flagged, this is very important, just go and do it. And everybody needs to do that. So let's just go here and see what has been happened, create the new me and things like that. Like it can be done in any way. Like you can comment, hey, I am on leave, and you'll be amazed, this thing is free for 10 people. Like if you want to agile your final year projects, you can really work on this. Like I can say you one thing, there is something called as your projects, and I'll show you how to do that project as well. So there is a beta version. So let me just create a new project. So this is a new assignment that I'm doing. So let's say I have an issue like was late for the scrum meeting, and someone needs to send him the notification of the CVE which was raised. CVE is, if you don't know, it's CVE in, okay, let me just show you CVE 2022. What was it all about? So Microsoft Research does all these kind of things. Like they want to know what was the remote code execution wala stuff, what happened, and things like that. This security vulnerability was released and last updated was at Jan 12th. Like this is how agile it is, people. You need to know that. So it says about like attack vectors, this metrics reflects on the constants and the networking and everything, right? It's all about that. So it's all that, you get an access to that entire infrastructure, and you will be like, okay, amazed by the fact that this is working. And you can assign it to any person in your team. Like I have not added any people. If I want, I can say Vishwas itself, and I can just add myself there, and that's perfect. And the status is to do, in progress, done. This is what it is. It's a simple step. You need not have to do much. You have one project attached, and you can build in like, hey, this is the repository that you need to go. In progress, you can do. To do, yet to start, and things like that. It's amazing when you look at the projects like this, and it's so nice to see such kind of a tools which are open source, but yet amazing impact in the world of data science and machine learning. So I don't understand, like, why do you want to really go for a paid tools? If you are an open source company, you need not have to do that. Like, one more big thing about Confluence is that they still have that gene pool of the old age era. Like, it's a company which has bought from the Atlassian, they have seen the world of software development and things like that. If you want to not to do kind of a thing like this, there is something called as A3 thinking. Ben Rockwood, I think he's there on my channel as well. So A3 thinking is one of the best tools that you can really think about in terms of like what can be done using Scrum, Agile, and everything. So it's a simple thing. It's basically business canvas which evolved for our technology people. So business canvas model, it's always there. So you can look at that. Like it's a guy called as Ono Toyoda who was very fed up of hundreds of people who came to him with big, thick business models and told that, hey, we have an amazing culture. And he was like, Can you build it in one paper? And they invented a really big paper. And A3, I can show you right away. Wait, I think I've done a lot of system architecture. Yep, I think, yep. So I think this was a Netflix system architecture that I did. So they invented a very, really big paper, and I'm using it for drawing system design. And this is how it is. Over a course of time, this entire technology evolved. And let me just go back to this code and the code repository, because that's awesome to one extent. And what next? And if you want a prime intro, I would say just go to YouTube and learn GitHub free code camp. It's just a prerequisite. You need not have to worry. It's still like the same old steps. Git init, git add, git commit, git branch, git push, git remote add origin main and things like that, and git push to minus u origin main stuff. Like this is how it is. So it's still the same old way. You can really start learning from this as well. So this is what it is. So Git is something which is a centralized repository which can be accessed by Gitbucket, GitLab, whatnot. Hasna, I think space.kts. Wait, space from JetBrains. So if you want to do a DevOps which is like free for you, you can still use it. Like this is an end-to-end DevOps tool, which I'm talking. Your GitHub is an end-to-end DevOps tool. What I showed as let me just show you the entire infrastructure that you can really access there. Yeah, I think I can go to one of my project called as, this is a reactor file. Like it's a project where I've written everything for the GitHub and the securitizing, the scans, the vulnerabilities, and so on. Like you can define anything and everything that is running here. Like pushing to one target, which is Azure Container Registry. And if I had the secrets and that repository there in the Azure subscription, just go. I didn't have it, so it didn't go there. So it's just a Docker build. Docker is just an fancy way of your VMs, removing all the fancy file system and just adding all the file system required. Like it's just OS packed onto your. I think I can show you that as well. So Docker Playground. So if you take in any of the Docker exams, you still go back to the Docker Playground itself. So you can take Narayana Ari. So what's my password? I forgot. I think so. I think I have not forgotten. Oh, wait, let's see. Wait. Vishwas Narayana Ari. Wait, Docker ID. I think I've forgotten the Docker. Narayana Ari is what my Docker. Okay, leave that. So, how does a playground look like? I think Katakoda. Katakoda is also a learning platform where you can reach out to. So this also requires login. I'm very sorry. Okay, let it be that, not a big deal. Start scenario. So very simple online version. So you can start working towards like, hey, I want to do this and that. I think I have worked on this earlier, so not a worry. So yeah, it's like you get to know what is happening in that entire process. Like whatever I told, the build, execution, unit test, you can still do it on your this one as well. So yeah, I think start scenario. Yeah, it's the same old thing. It's a cloud-based environment. I can show you this. So yeah, you can just go get in and start working with the cloud as well. So that's not a worry. It takes time because it needs to do a lot of authentication. So these are some of the platforms which you will go back to even when you're writing exams. Like they ask you for this only. Like where can you reach out to and where can you start working? Like if you ask me, I'm a nerd. Yes, I'm a nerd. I do a lot of notes taking. and stuff. And if you want to know, I do a lot of notes, by the way, colorful notes. Can't help it. I do a lot of notes. Like, you have to be a nerd sometimes. Like, don't worry, you just have to just go and do Docker pull. I think I have a Linux thing. Wait, I can show you one of my Docker, which was, oh, sorry, which was Narayana Ari Docker Hub. So I'm here, and I think yesterday I think I ran the, okay, 2 days before I ran the code, and 2 days before there was an updation which happened here. So this is how it is. Like, if you do an impactful move here, like, it will just get affected. Like, I can show you that entire build. How can I even change it right now? Like, I can comment this code and I can do this and I can commit it. Look what happens to the actions. They start running. And of course, this will be a flaw again. I think this don't be a flaw. I think there was one more flawed one. I don't know where it went off. But like, you can do in other way as well, because I think I can show you one of the deployment, like tagged deployments, right? If I do a new release here, like, let me just go and type v version 1.1.3 something, like, okay, like, I just go nuts and I just want to do it for the main branch. Well, you can see that there is an action which is saying tagged deployments, right? It didn't run before and it started running now. So 2 days before there was an one commit, but now there was not done, and as soon as I tagged it, it started working. And the version says 1.2.13. So, well, you have everything from Microsoft, and Microsoft has given you everything, right? I don't know how many times I've run this workflow. Like, this is one of my favorite repositories. Like, don't start it, don't forget, because I don't know what are all the bugs here. And we told, like, we want to automate everything, right? I can show you one of my application which is now connected to Snake, and Snake sends me all different sort of vulnerabilities, and it says that, hey, there is a pull request that I can help you with. Do you want to merge that pull request, and so on? So this is what I'm saying. Automation at the scale, like, automation is happening to that great extent. And what do you want more? This is one of the best tools that you can start working towards. I think if I refresh it, probably there is an updation which has happened here. Yes, few minutes ago. So it's 2 minutes ago, and if you can see that version there, I think, if you can see the tags which happened here, I think 8 days ago, and 2 days ago, and things like that. Like, it depends on the tags and things like that. Like, they have the best version that you can look at. Like, this depends on how you strategize that tagging as well. So yes, I think that's it. I think, there is no other requirement, and I think I can make sure that you guys can go here. And I've just done a Scrum blog. Don't worry about that. Which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where are you? I don't want to do this, man. GitHub.com. Do that. Yes, you have been added to the Reco, man. Yes, wait. You can see all my repositories. There is artifacts, there is ANPR demo and things like that. I think private are more here. I think I've done some Terraform repository as well. You guys can go and check out what is that Terraform. So it's a kind of a repository. Yes, I can show you how do we do a lot of packaging. You can see how I've done a packaging of an Flutter application. Like, this is one of the best way to do it. So this is also a tag deployment that I'm doing here. If you just do it, there is always a version that gets created and things like that. And you can see how the 6 workflows worked, and it just does the same old build and the release. So let me just go back to the slides and I show you what is it all about at the end of the day when we are talking. So it's still the code. It's still the same old operations that we strategize towards, like, hey, where should be our environment setting? Should it be in AWS, Azure, or GCP? Any other cloud platform? Which cloud is there? There are n number of them. And there is documentation that just flows in and just says that, hey, this is what developer team is working, this is what operations people are working towards. And so remember one thing, YAML and JSON, the language of DevOps, can't help it. This is the truth. We learn TypeScript, JavaScript, this, that. When you want to be a strong DevOps professional, I think I can share you one video. Learn YAML. I learned the YAML this way itself. So this is one of the video that you can go back and listen to. And I think in cloud community days, confab. Yep, this is the one. So YAML tips and tricks for Kubernetes. I think it's Azure Kubernetes day that they did from the confirm, and I think this is one of the videos that I go back to if I feel like YAML code is not working. Like this is how it is. So this I heard it from this workshop itself. Like I was seeing about like where can I learn about GitHub Actions, and I saw Edward Thompson from GitHub did this talk, and it was amazing to hear from Edward Thomas that he just gave this kind of an insight. And of course, Vivek Sridhar sir from Azure Developer Community, one of my best motivators in my journey. I didn't know that I'll end up in cloud at any way. Like, I knew that okay, I'll do something in some other thing, but like, he just really ruled there are a lot of things that I have dreamt because of him. Sorry, was not able to find. Sorry for that. Oh, find the webinar. I don't know, autocomplete. I just did it on the day, so sorry for that. Also, not able to find that webinar. And your mindset should be something like you need to be a beggar in the street of DevOps. You can't be like, hey, I know Circle CI. Yes, I can show you Circle CI as well. I think I did in one of my repo. So similar, whatever is being offered by your entire infrastructure here is also being given there as well. So I think it's there in the same old Reactor app, but it's in a branch Circle CI. Yes, I got that. So you can see what is happening in the pull request, and there is always this project. You can go out and see what happened to the details of it. So it didn't happen here, right? It didn't happen, why it didn't happen, and whatnot. So you can go to the circleci.configs, and checks can also be done. So you can see what are all happened there. Circle CI, why it didn't start working. So build Docker failed. It will take me to the Circle CI repository. And you can see that like I didn't do much of a work here because I had so many things. So Circle CI was not done. If I log in with my Circle CI, you will see a magic. Like it's an end-to-end DevOps tool. Like this is cool to one extent, but not to every extent. They are also improving every single day. So you can start working like, hey, where can I fit in and what next, and write their own stuff. And yeah, I don't want that to happen. That's cool. So you can go to the organization settings, look at how many workflows has been run, what's the time it took. Like everything can be seen here. Like it can say how many build errors happened, what happened here. Like this to me is the state of the art governance. Like you need to learn from everything. So in the future, don't worry, it's still going to be star ops. It's not going to be ML ops, AI ops, or anything. It's still going to be the operations. Developers will be developing, operations guys will be doing operations, but there will be some proclivity of engineers who will communicate with both, and they'll bring up that. So it's all operations at the end of the day. And mind you, it's very, very addictive. You have been warned by me. Once you enter with full stack interest, there is no way you're going out. And what are the big five moves in an organization at scale? It's this: source code, builds, test, deploys, and the monitors. Whatever we saw in that hefty pipeline, which just had something moving, It's still going to be there. And for that image, there is an source that I got through from a Medium article. So I've even linked it in the speakers notes as well. So do check it out. So it's all the same thing. Everything is at stake. Everything is a massive move here. So we need to do everything. Everything is important here. Everything has to be governed, securitized, scaled, and made reliable. So security rules here, because security is something which is out there. So why do you want a documentation? Because you need all the logs, feeds, artifacts, environment criteria, this and that. Studying what is your SDLC and ALM. ALM is application lifecycle management. In ML ops, ALM is taken care more than your SDLC, because what I can say is we just do API jugaad and we don't know what we are doing. But lifecycle management is what we take care. So it's all about that. Everything needs to be made secure, and now it's the chance that you're doing. So what you have to do is securitize everything. Security starts from your source code. That first push, the security starts. You need to be agile enough to just understand that. So everything is important. So govern it, securitize it, because there is nothing which is as in purpose here. Like everything has its own moving parts and everything has its own purpose in an organization. So it's like you need to leave your ego, just say that, hey, nobody is up and nobody is down here, and you need to start working. And that's what an organization is. So remove that barrier. When you enter a team of full of people talking DevOps this, DevOps that, just ask them one question: what did you learn from Toyota production system? Like, how many production issues have you seen? And you get an awesome amount of conversation happening, and that's going to build you that friendship, and that's going to keep that culture out there for you. And white hat and black hat thing is always there when you're securitizing it. You should also be making sure that you don't share your organization secrets, repository secrets, environment secrets to any person, because it's the stake of your entire development team that we are talking here. So security and the compliance, it's the same old definition that goes there. DevOpsify it, ticket hit. Like every time that you are running an application and there is a CV which is raised there, make sure that you understand this is what is required, and you just throw off that in the ticket. And anybody and everybody has to do it. So compliance is there where you are trying to enhance the current production, like something like blue-green deployments where you are now hot patching it, hot fixing it. Now we are saying that, hey, we have an older version of the code, but yet how can we push the newer version of the code with the newer version of the features and things like that. So must learn what? So this is what it's all about. So to me, DevOps is circling around the facts that, okay, what can we do? Because open source software are so impactful in any organization. Like 90% of the code base is still open sourced code. So you can't do that. So it's always about that OSS license, versions, infrastructure as code, CVs and exposure, source code vulnerability, OSS library vulnerability, whatnot. You will drift around with all of these, but these are some of the important things. So at the end of the day, we all look at the security of it, because we sometimes have to go through a trade-off of like we have spending too much on cloud, but we are more secure because infrastructure is taking a lot of time. But that's a trade-off that you have to work on. But to me, I feel that you need to know all these concepts: SAST, static application testing, software testing, hardware, dynamic application testing. It's an integrated application testing. I asked, like, I can say you one example. Dr. N. Ranjana from DRDO Ashoka, University, software missiles. Forget the fact that you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or anything. To me, missiles are something which is more huge. And I think I have a book. It says about it. It's a book from Ian Somerville. In this book, there was one more part two. I gave it to one of my junior. I don't know where he is or what's his name. Sorry for that. If you are seeing this, please get me that book. I want that. So in this book also they emphasize more on like hardware based approach. Like if you think there's a sensor, for every sensor there is something called as sample size in sensors, sampling rate, not sampling size, sampling rate in sensors. This is very unique topic. It's an topic which takes me a day to explain, but I'll say you in gist. It's something like you have a set of waves that is standardized and you are now making it good for your entire infrastructure. Like your computer can only understand digital, but how are you working with an analog? There is an ADC, analog to digital converter. So there is a different sampling rate for that. There is a set of matrices for that. So if you think of a missile, every missile has its own way of sensors, every missile has its own way of transducers and other mechanism that goes through, right? This is one of the best talks that you need to listen to. I want you all to listen to this. I don't mind whether you're, and there is always that reason where you are always thinking like, hey, where can we just fit inside this entire culture? So that thing, I think probably I'm just going to put it down there here. I think that's the this is one thing. If you want to talk too much about software, go understand this talk. You're going to understand everything. So even in integrated testing and everything I learned from there itself. Like that was the mindset. Like I think it was there when I was in first year itself, but like I heard it in my second year, very late, 2018. So right now there are some amazing stories of DevOps. What you can do is just follow this hyperlink that I'm sharing here. That's docs that I've given. So there are some amazing resources that I collected over a course of time, and it's here. And some books are these: Continuous Delivery from Jess Humble and David Farley. Wait, I'll share you one of his resources. David Farley, Continuous Delivery channel. Like this is a legit channel, amazing channel. You guys have to just go there. And one of my favorite is John Willis. I have done a podcast with him as well, so you guys can go and check it out. It's the 70th podcast that I did with him. So amazing person. And what I'm talking here, the Handbook of DevOps, he's one of the co-authors of that. So yes, and I think it's this link here. I think I'll put it down in the slides there so you guys can go back and check that out as well. So 70th one is here. Yes. You guys have to just go back and listen to this podcast. Like this is one of the best. And amazing book, Phoenix Project from Gene Kim and the other folks. I think the Phoenix Project, Beyond the Phoenix Project, is with John Willis. This is an audio book, not a video, not a regular Walla book. And one of the books from David Gonzalez, Azure DevOps. Actually, he has written an amazing book on Azure DevOps as well. So do check it out. Accelerate, mind-blowing book for an operations guy. And if you're a totally operations guy, I would say team topologies and the operations managed by B Mahadevan. Of course, B Mahadevan has an amazing YouTube channel. You guys can go and check it out. I think he's a professor from IIM Bangalore. Amazing person. His book, I've read only 20 to 25% of it, but I've got a great amount of insights on DevOps. More than me understanding what I understood with this book. And I think in this book is actually not that technical also. You guys can read this book. But this book has a sort of a use case study, and you can understand, okay, this is where I can fit in my entire infrastructure and the organization culture that I want to build towards. And lastly, I talk a lot of ITIL. If you are very lazy like me to read all the 5 books of ITIL, I would say like go back and listen to this book. This book is amazing, by the way. And over a course of time, I realized one thing that, hey, this is what we are supposed to be doing. And this is where our organization leads to lead towards. And I think you'll be amazed when you can listen to this entire book that we are talking here. The Goal is a book from Elliot Goldratt, and one of the best books. But before that, I would say read all these three books completely so that you will understand what is happening. And lastly, one of my key note to you, like forget the fact that you're going to learn Jenkins, this, that, and this entire series of culture. What you should understand is organization must adapt to that going to be defining the core competency. That's going to be defining the core competency of the agility. Like organization needs to adapt, or else it's going to be the West American or the Indian historic, what do you call it, the unicorn or the anything. Like they need to adapt every single day. If the market requirement changes, they need to change. If there's a drift in the model, the drift in the data, like we'll just do it in the ML ops and the AI ops session. But you'll understand what is that drift in the model. Model is like you just have this set of data which is trained, but the data which is coming in is very different. And now you have to train for that model. That's a model drift. And data drift is like, I can give you a simple example. Before the pandemic, the way we used to travel, the way we used to spend changed. And now after the pandemic, it's a different story. Like, hey, it's like technology is there in the hands of every person. And over a course of time, this is what they need and this is what they wanted to do. And organization needs to adapt. And that's the end of the discussion. And some research papers that I found very useful. Sorry for that. I was amazed by the amount of papers which are there on DevOps at Agile. Click on this link. You will see n number of papers which I felt very good. If you want, Steve Maynard, PhD thesis on DevOps. Yes, you guys can go and check out the doctorals. This guy is actually amazing. He's in the Scrum Agile Alliance. I think I have it. If I get it, I've read this thesis. Amazing. It's a management thing. He did it in an MBA department and so on. So come on, ask me any questions that you want. I'm ready to answer that. So the slides, I think I'll make a tiny URL of it in front of you. Don't worry about that. So it will be the viewers and tiny.cc. And I make that and DevOps world view only. I think I'll shorten it and you guys can have it. So it's this tiny.cc DevOps world only. And I think it will just open it in the new version. I think, yes, well, you have it. DevOps world only. I think that will be there. And perfect, folks. Perfect from my side. I think any questions, please do drop it down in the comment section here. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishwas. It was a great session. I just want to ask community to please be on our Discord channel. We have the
Yep.
link over there. You can go
And
and
also thank you, UPES Dehradun, for giving me this opportunity. It means a lot. And of course, tomorrow we have complete introduction to Azure DevOps because Tarun Marwa sir from ABB, he's coming to give you the session on the complete DevOps and things like that. I hope you guys enjoyed this session and thank you so much, folks. Yeah, Sarthak, you can